Joining me with a detailed look at our weather patterns are my guest, meteorologist Alex Tardy with the National Weather Service and Dan Cahan, climate researcher with Scripps Institution of Oceanography and the U.S. Geological Survey. Welcome back.
Thanks for having us.
Now, Alex, temperatures along the coast are going to be about 10 to 15 degrees above normal, with, I believe, expected temps in the 80s and 90s this week. Why the high temperatures along our coast?
Yeah, it seems like a broken record. We just went through this recently, and it's been a warm summer. What's happening is the marine layer, which cools us off all the time, is really squashed and really not even there anymore. So we're feeling more like we're in the deserts as this warm air continues to build. So typically we have that marine layer that affects us during the day and the night. Right now it's not on, it's off.
So our natural air conditioning is off, but that doesn't exactly explain the humidity. Where's that moisture coming from?
The humidity is partly coming from our sea surface temperatures, our ocean temperatures. If you've been out in the water, they've been warm for a while, which is nice, but that keeps our minimum temperatures elevated at night and elevates the humidity. It raises the moisture content, and we really start to feel that in the mugginess.
And is that hurricane moisture then?
It's not directly hurricane moisture. We had Norbert last week and we have Odell this week, and it's kind of indirect. These warm sea surface temperatures have been in place for a while, so it's indirect. The part about the hurricanes is we start seeing increased thunderstorm activity out in our mountains and deserts, and that's more attributed to the tropical moisture.
And speaking of moisture, Dan, basically we're hearing conflicting reports about this El Nino or supposed El Nino that is we might see this year. Can you tell us about what we can expect?
Well, conditions are a little warmer than normal in the tropical Pacific, unlike the extratropics that Alex was talking about, our nearshore waters being exceptionally warm. For an El Nino to develop, we need temperatures in the surface areas of the eastern part of the Pacific Basin to be much warmer than they are right now. And chances are something in the neighborhood of 2 to 1 that we'll see at least a mild El Nino, but it doesn't look like we'll have a strong El Nino, unfortunately.
Yeah. When you say mild El Nino, what does that mean in terms of inches of rain?
Well, if I knew, I would have a higher pay grade. But it turns out that mild El Ninos can give us lots of flavors of rainfall here in California. The good thing is that we don't have cool conditions along the tropical Pacific, which is almost a sure symptom that things are going to be normal to below. Having at least mildly warmer temperatures, we could get anything from not so good to a pretty good rainfall season.
So we'll see. The jury's still out on that one. And Alex, I know as we approach October, people, of course, naturally start worrying about wildfires, the hot, dry by this time of the year. What's the forecast telling us as far as Santa Ana winds and our fire danger?
Yeah, well, right now the fire danger, because of this 3-year drought, because of the warm temperatures, we're at record warm temperatures in California since January 1st, record warmth. But we're going into a situation where it's above normal threat because of the dry fuel. The vegetation that's around us is very stressed. The soil has very little moisture. So if we knew the amount of Santa Anas, it'd be helpful, but we do know we'll get Santa Anas. It's just a matter of when. October and November, they're very common. They actually peak out in January. But by January, you're supposed to be wet. So we'll be holding our breath this October, November, because if we don't get significant rainfall that's widespread to really put it, to damper the situation with the fire weather, we know we're going to get some Santa Anas, and it's going to be critical if there are any starts.
And this dry brush down, of course, the drought. Everybody knows about the drought here. It seems to be one of the worst. But how does it compare to other droughts in California's history?
It is one of the worst. It's not the worst when we look at the data stacked up, but it's certainly extreme, and we've lost over the last 3 years equivalent of almost a year's worth of precipitation. So we have a big hole to climb out of.
And what will it take to get us out of this? How much rain?
Oh, it's going to be statewide probably 150% of normal. So not twice as much of normal, but statewide. If it just rains in Southern California, it's not going to help the drought necessarily at all. We need the whole state to have almost twice as much precipitation they normally see. That in itself brings problems, right? Because that could bring some flooding if that were to happen. It may take us a few years before we stop talking about drought.
Okay, and that was my last question to Dan here. How long do you think we can? It'll take to climb out of this drought?
Well, I suspect that even after this year, even if it's a mildly good winter, we will probably still have some lasting effects of this deficit because it's been quite extreme, and there's been our reservoirs, soil moisture, deep water, aquifers and so forth are really depleted right now.
All right, so nothing too soon, it looks like. Dan Cahan and Alex Tardy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy.